Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, time for Wisdom Wednesday. Hope everybody's doing well, and I wanted to visit a little bit today about anxiety and the fact that we have a lot of anxiety around, and certainly the last year and a half has not helped that. But even before 2020, we were seeing significant increases overall, particularly in the United States, but really across the world, increasing issues with anxiety. It's the most common mental illness that we have in America. 40 million people at any one time are affected by levels of anxiety. Certainly most of those folks are dealing with just mild anxiety, but up to 20% of those folks are dealing with real significant anxiety. And I wanted to talk a little bit about a possibility of using something for this anxiety that actually is quite beneficial and is non-pharmaceutical. And you've heard me talk a lot about the chemical L-Theanine. The L is just the type of theanine. There's D-theanine and L-theanine, and it's L-Theanine, for those of you that have not come across it or know anything about it. It's just over the counter. It is an amino acid. It's an amino acid that our body actually can make. It's not an essential amino acid, but when given in relatively low doses, not really significantly high doses, it can be quite helpful. And just to reiterate, I know we've talked a little bit about sort of the chemical aspects of anxiety in the past, and I've talked a lot about insulin and cortisol and the fact that when we are stressed, we can really spit out a lot of cortisol. And when cortisol is released, it is released with other hormones called counter-regulatory hormones. And these include epinephrine and norepinephrine, which is basically adrenaline, and also glucagon, which can increase blood sugar. But it's that adrenaline and noradrenaline, or epinephrine, norepinephrine, that's when it's released and we don't really have a great outlet for it. It just builds up in the system and can produce lactic acid and kind of just change our chemistry and make us very anxious. Now, what's really at the heart of all this, we really don't know, but I have my own personal feelings about it. We know that social media has been an issue. We know that COVID has been an issue, but we know that the standard American diet is very inflammatory, and that inflammation increases cortisol, which then increases these just adrenal hormones, the epinephrine, norepinephrine, which can really cause a lot of anxiety and just irritability within the body because we just don't seem to get it burned up essentially well. And this increase in lactic acid that builds up in our muscles, it just makes us very anxious. And we need ways to help diffuse that. Certainly exercise is great for those of you who are able and can exercise. We can diffuse some of it. But L-theanine as an amino acid, and this was discovered, I think, back in the 50s by the Japanese, and because they drink a lot of green tea, they were able to extract it from green tea. And now it doesn't have anything to do with caffeine, so it doesn't really amp you up. But what it does is it enters the body, and within 20-30 minutes, it crosses into the blood-brain barrier, so into the brain, and it affects this area in the brain where the synapses are, and it can bind to the nerves and can lower threshold for excitatory neurotransmitters. So it can lower the threshold for this adrenaline, and it can increase what we call alpha waves in the brain because it also attaches to the GABA receptor, and it can really calm, but it doesn't sedate. So that's the really nice thing about it, is it really doesn't sedate. The other thing it can do is it can improve cognition, and particularly in kids and adults with ADD, it can help us with focus, and it helps. They've done a study even with 8 to 12-year-old boys using this amino acid, and it improves their sleep and their ability to calm themselves a little bit. So it's really great even for children, and the side effects are essentially none. If you are on blood pressure medicine, it can lower blood pressure, so you just need to be a little bit aware of that. And but otherwise, really not a lot that can happen there. So the nice thing is it can improve sleep. So it's in a lot of sleep medications. It reduces stress without the sedation. So that is great because it can lower blood pressure. And it can also enhance attention, focus, memory, and learning. And besides that, there is some data that it can help folks maintain healthy weight because it can lower anxiety and perhaps keep us from just mindless eating. But it has some real benefits there. So L-Theanine is a great product. It comes in a 200 milligram tablet. They've used as little as 50 milligrams and really up to 200 milligrams. You don't need to push it much more than that, and it can last 4 to 6 hours. So I have a lot of folks that just take this first thing in the morning and also need it a little bit at bedtime just to kind of calm you. It doesn't really put you to sleep, but it kind of helps calm the brain so you're not ruminating all the time. So this can be just something, folks just keep in their purse, can carry with them wherever. If you have the need to study for a test, they've combined this with caffeine actually. So maybe 100 milligrams of L-Theanine and less than 100 milligrams of caffeine can help focus and study. So as you can see, there's just a lot of great benefits. And we've been very pleased with the results, and it's not habit forming. There's no need to worry about withdrawal or anything like that. It is just a food product and a simple amino acid that our body even knows how to make, which is great. But when used in doses that are between 100 and 200, most of these come with 200 milligrams, it is exceedingly effective for many things. And hopefully that kind of explains it to you. I know I've mentioned it on many of these videos, but I never really went in depth as to how it works. So I hope you all have a great week. And if you need anything that could potentially help with calming, let us know. Or you can certainly get this anywhere over the counter. This next weekend, I'm heading to Austin for our yearly hormone update meeting, so I'm looking forward to that, and I'm sure I'll come back all Twitter-pated with all kinds of new things to talk about. Jason Fung will be there, so I'm very thrilled to get to see him again. He'll be talking about his new book, The Cancer Code, which we reviewed back in the spring, and hopefully we'll get some more insight on that. It was relatively life-changing the last time I saw him 2 or 3 years ago in October I guess it was 2 years ago at the previous hormone update meeting, in terms of understanding that weight management is more about insulin and not so much about calories. So I'm looking forward to learning more. His book was very helpful in getting more understanding about insulin resistance and sort of our progression of inflammation that can lead to cancer. And we'll see about getting more information, and I will be happy to share that with you all. Have a great week and weekend, and we'll talk again next week.